The content, views, and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the City of Bremerton, BCAT, their officials, or their employees. Hello, I'm Mark Miller, and once again I'm here with Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers Author and Creative Showcase. And once again I have somebody who's been here before. In fact, he's actually done some interviews for us, and that's Andy Becker. How you doing today, Andy?
Hi, good to be here.
And one reason why I wanted to get him here is he has a brand new book that he's brought out. And it kind of hits a little bit closer to home because it has to do a little bit with aging in the family. So I'm going to let Andy start explaining about Grandy, Let's Play.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank BCAT. It's great to be here. I had a lengthy professional career in Kitsap County, so to be here at the fairgrounds, to be here again with you, Claw's so supportive of indie writers and local writers, so I just really want to thank you, Mark, Claw, and of course BCAT for being here today. Grandy Let's Play, Reflections on the Joy, Blessings, and Wonder of Grandparenting. It's the third book in my Spiritual Garden series, so you can think of it this way. The Spiritual Gardener is about making friends with an earthworm, gardening and spirituality. The Spiritual Forest, it's about environmentalism. It's about the joy of planting a tree. You always want to remember to plant the right tree in the right place at the right time. But it addresses environmentalism not from a science perspective or a political perspective, but from a spiritual perspective. Then, to complete the series, Grandy Let's Play is really about the joy of aging, the wonder of grandchildren, staying relevant in our later years. The word Grandy is a combination of the word grandfather, grandpa, and Andy. And I was given the name Grandy by a marvelous daughter-in-law when my first grandchild was being handed off to me by the mother. And he was giving me this very taciturn look, you know, how babies can be so serious, like, who is this guy? And spontaneously, Carly, my daughter-in-law, said, "Oh, that's Grandy, that's your grandfather." So thus the name was born, and I am forever to my two grandchildren, not Andy, not Grandpa, Grandy. And my son has followed that up. If it's my birthday, I now have a ball cap that says Grandy. Cool. I have a Grandy t-shirt. I have a Grandy coffee mug. So that's my name now among my grandchildren.
So, of course, you and I are no longer young little creatures running around here. We both have become aged and gray-haired. So, having that with grandchildren, I would say it probably did affect your attitude to a certain extent to the world around you?
Absolutely. When we think of grandchildren, what are we thinking about? We're really thinking about the future. You can ask your question, if humanity was born into a perfect world, how did we end up in our current predicament? How could that be? And how can we reverse the trend? Well, maybe we can pour a lot of love, a lot of caring, a lot of attention into that next generation coming up.
There's always that old statement they always make about the fact was that parents raise their children and then they proceed to spoil the heck out of their grandchildren because they can get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, we fall in love with our kids, and we love our kids, and sometimes that's a surprise. Like, I always expected to love my children when I first became a father, but I didn't know how much I would fall in love with them and how that relationship would grow as they went from baby to toddler to, preschooler to all the way teenager to adult. And the relationship does grow and change and mature. But the parent has to act towards that child not just as an example, but also as a disciplinarian, as someone who's, frequently, almost daily sometimes in those teenage years setting limits. But with a grandparent, the relationship is freer. It's less conditional. We talk about unconditional love. I think the grandparent to grandchild relationship is the best example of unconditional love. And, you have the advantage. You're there to enjoy each other, to learn from each other, to energize each other. And that child really, just soaks up the attention. Because the parents these days, they're working, they're busy, they have so many worries and stresses, financial and otherwise. You're now with, this child or children in a very relaxed mode. You can give, they don't have to be hurried. You can give them all the freedom and attention that they thrive with.
And I'm glad you brought the original idea about falling more in love with your kids as time goes by, because that's something I don't think people think about. And then I think back to like the granddad that I knew, and he taught me how to fly fish and all that stuff. And there was that unique little relationship that you don't have with your parents that gives you a little bit of a different perspective on the world, and also a different perspective on adults as you're growing up.
Definitely. It's a very special relationship. I have wonderful memories, some of which I've put in this book, of my grandparents and how unique they were. Of course, they were immigrants, both sets, and I was very fortunate in that one set of grandparents lived right across the street.
Yeah.
And I was the chess player in the family, and I had a grandfather who excelled in chess, and my grandmother would get so jealous, and she would want to play. So after I was done with my grandfather, she would play. Of course, she was extremely competitive. If I took her queen or something, she'd always say, "Oh, that was a mistake. I'm putting it back."
Yeah. That's funny.
So I have great memories of family and grandparents. I think the kids today, whether it was our kids or our grandkids, because the world is more fractured, more specialized, it's a much scarier place, don't have the freedom that maybe you and I had, Mark, growing up.
We grew up where a lot of our neighbors and us and everybody else, we had extended families, which meant I have memories of all of our cousins and our aunts and uncles and our grandparents. We'd all get together for like Christmas, and we'd all wind up at somebody's house. And then my grandparents moved out to Panther Lake out by Snohomish, and we'd go out there and we could swim, and you get all the cousins together. So you had an extended family, at least on the one side of the family. And as my mom's side started moving over closer, then we got to know them too. I don't hear a lot of extended families anymore. There seems to be really a breakup of a lot of the families when it comes to aunts, uncles, cousins, things like that.
And it's a mobility in the society. People are scattered all over the country. So that's a big part of it for sure.
Yeah, and but I think we're losing something, because when people talk about the village, what they're really talking about is the extended family, because as we developed, human society developed, you had first and second cousins all living together with the various grandparents, various parents in one community. So not only did we know everybody, but a lot of us were related.
And the immigrant experience shares that, because
Yeah.
the immigrant family would get together all the
Oh,
time,
yeah.
live close to each other. So you certainly had that with my grandparents'
Where did
generation.
they come from?
Well, I have one set of grandparents that came from Vilna, and another set that came from Morty. Morty is a town outside Warsaw in Poland.
Oh, okay. And where's Vilna at?
Vilna, I would call
Vilna.
kind of like Eastern Europe as well, more
Okay.
not exactly which country Vilna.
Oh, it's kind of floating around in the Balkans or something, someplace. Yeah.
North of that, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm not exactly sure
Oh,
how to
okay.
describe Vilna.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, did your family speak primarily Polish, or was there some
Yeah,
other?
so we're Jewish, so those grandparents spoke a lot of Yiddish.
Oh, okay.
And one set of grandparents really never spoke English very well at all.
Oh, okay.
So my father, for example, he understood Yiddish really quite well because his parents never really spoke English.
Right.
My other set of grandparents spoke English, but it was heavily accented.
Right.
And they'd throw in a lot of Yiddish words.
And Yiddish has some Germanic base, or?
Yeah. It's written kind of like Hebrew, but it has a lot of German influence
Right.
in the language.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, did you become fairly fluent in Yiddish when you were growing up? With the
Just the fun words.
Oh, just the curse words and yeah, like it.
There are a lot of beautiful Yiddish words.
Of course.
Uh-huh.
One thing we wanted to bring out is you have some good illustrations and photos in your books, and we definitely want to show the illustrations because we have a local author, and you can give your local author the name if you want to show some of the drawings and everything. Because what we like to do is we like to let people know what can be done, even if you're just quote unquote or a local unknown.
This is one of the chapters. There are 11 illustrations in this book. They're all beautiful watercolors, all credit to University of Washington Masters in Fine Arts graduate,
Yeah.
Abigail Drapkin.
Oh,
This
okay.
is a picture of a little toddler. We're so fortunate here in the Kitsap Peninsula to have so much coastline.
Yep.
So here's this young person at the Salish Sea, lifting up rocks and
Cool.
playing with the crabs and holding up a crab. In the gardening book, which is The Spiritual Gardener, this is a chapter about the creatures that the home gardener has to contend with, and this chapter is called Damn Wabbits. And I'm so fortunate to have Abigail illustrate both The Spiritual Gardener and also Grandy Let's Play.
Now-
the third book in the series is photographs. This is Angkor Wat, which is a place in Cambodia. This particular chapter is about roots. I should say about this series, not only are all 3 books illustrated, but each chapter stands alone and has its own theme.
Okay.
So, for example, roots, we're talking about what are the tree roots. I mean, trees are really
Oh, yeah.
interesting because typically in nature, water seeks its own level.
Right.
We have gravity, but water in trees comes up from the roots and it travels up the tree, which is really a unique situation.
And apparently now they're finding out for sure, they always assumed this, that trees can talk to each other through their root systems. And of course, we're just trying to learn the language, but apparently somehow they can communicate that there's some possible problems or danger coming to other trees of the similar species if they're in a small clump or forest. and we're just trying to understand what their level of cognizance is, and especially in the larger trees.
Well, and it's also interesting, some of our most incredible oldest trees, for example, the sequoia
Yeah.
of California that John Muir wrote so wonderfully about. The sequoia trees grow in clumps or groves, and their roots hold each other up.
Oh, okay.
So my theme on my chapter on the sequoia is the strength of community.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I did not know that. That's interesting. So, how did you decide to start writing? I know you're into gardening, okay?
Right.
You have the proverbial green thumb. So, but what kind of motivated you to actually start writing about it?
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer. And my first book I wrote when I was age 19.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a trunk in a basement closet. I need to dig it out.
You got to.
And burn it or shred
No,
it
don't
or,
burn it,
or
no.
bury it or do something, because I'm absolutely convinced it's horrible. I haven't looked at it in all those years.
What was?
I did short stories.
Okay.
And then, you know, your professional life takes over. You're providing a living and growing a family. So it was really in about 2018, 2019 when I started to step back from a very, very busy professional life. And I had time. First I went half-time. So suddenly I had time to do what I always wanted to do, which was to write.
There we go.
My first published book was a series of childhood short stories that are funny. It's called Cracking an Egg.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I wrote The Spiritual Gardener, because what you're trying to do as a writer is write what you know about.
Right.
So I certainly wrote that first book, the childhood stories, kind of as a love letter to mom. Definitely a memoir, growing up in the 50s and 60s. Kind of rites of passage, short stories that stand alone. I also wrote a book of lawyer short stories. There was a problem with that book.
Uh-oh.
All the stories were true. And even though I changed the names, people in the Kitsap legal community were going to recognize themselves in those stories. And, you know, lawyers amongst each other can be like adolescent boys.
Oh, of course, their egos.
We deal with a lot of cruelty and tragedy, and there's a lot of comedy involved, and I cannot publish that book. I cannot and will not.
What you need to do is find yourself a ghostwriter that will be willing to publish it for you, because that, and then make sure there's no way to. I mean, people are going to try to tie it back, but okay, I write crime thrillers, but a lot of my stories are based on people I work with, and if you read the books, you can probably figure out, oh, you're talking about so and so, you know, and that's just what it is. You, like you said, you write what you know, and you write what you experienced, and that's what makes a good writer, is that they write from personal experience to get that personal emotion, that personal, you know, inside soul into your writing.
Yeah. Well, I understand what you're saying, but I don't want to hurt people's feelings either in my writing. And I know that book would really rub people that I rubbed elbows very closely with. The legal community in Kitsap is very small.
Right.
And I rubbed elbows with these people and shoulders with these people. And they were very supportive of me at the time. I was very supportive of them. And you just don't want to satirize close friends and injure those relationships, even though some time has passed now. I'll think about it. I did write a satire called The Kissing Rabbi. Lust, betrayal in a community turned inside out, and that was based on actual scandal with a rabbi in Tacoma. And you can see from the reviews, even though the novel won an award for a Mark Twain Award for satire and humor, If you go on Amazon, you can see posted reviews that are in the one category
Yeah.
because it upset people
Oh, yeah.
so much. And even though that book was totally fictionalized, people who also had a front row seat to that scandal thought in some mistaken cases that I was writing about them. I wasn't, but they read themselves
Oh, of course. Wow.
into that book, and that led to some controversy on that particular novel. But the law short stories, I'm not going to publish that. I am writing a satire now, presently.
Right.
I'm about half done. It's called, tentatively, I don't know if this will be the final title, The Paralegal Speaks. And the narrator is kind of a potty mouth, very opinionated legal assistant, paralegal person who's tracking the attorney she's working for through 4 different cases at once.
Cool. Well, we look forward to that because like I said, I like to read books written by people that experience the genre of subject matter that they're writing about. It's, if you're writing, like I've, in addition to crime thrillers, I've written science fiction, but even then, you use your characters based on people you knew, and that makes it a little bit more, realistic.
Yeah, all 3 of these books have a lot of element of memoir.
Right.
One chapter is called The Old Catalpa, which is about aging, but it's also about a favorite tree that we had in our yard. It was a catalpa tree, and it provided, well, it was a playground. I mean, kids of a certain age couldn't help but climb on that tree. It was a wonderful nesting area for the birds, especially in springtime. It was also the air conditioner for our house, and we loved that tree.
Yeah.
But the insects loved it too.
Uh-oh.
And I was mowing my lawn, and I just got finished mowing that area of the yard, and I was at a different area of the yard, and I heard a giant crash.
Oh, yeah.
The old catalpa, half of it fell down.
Yeah,
I could have been underneath of it, just 5 minutes earlier.
Insects have eaten away.
But we saw all the rot in that tree, but it didn't occur to us to do anything about it because we love that tree so much.
Yeah, too bad. I've just been notified by our production team here that it's getting close to the end of the show. So, first of all, I want to really thank you for coming here again.
Thank you.
And I'm going to try to get you to come in here to actually be the interviewer, which you've done before, because I know that the public out there is getting tired of just looking at my ugly face. So
I doubt that, but thank you. I'm happy to substitute. Anytime you want a break, I'm happy to fill in for you.
We're going to have to do that because, like I said, I like to try to switch things up, keep things interesting.
You bet.
If it wasn't for Bremerton Kitsap Access Television and the staff here, this show wouldn't occur. Of course, I also have my publisher, which is Blue Forge Press and Blue Forge Films, who helped do the editing for these shows. They also helped me set up a YouTube channel where we have probably over 100 shows for Claw, Kitsap Literary Arts and Writers, that we've had posted up there that we've done over the years. Kitsap Literary Arts and Writers exists to help all types of creatives and artists, not just only writers. We deal with filmmakers, we deal with painters, you name it. So if you ever feel interested that you would like to come and be interviewed, contact me and I'll be more than happy. Kitsap Literary Arts and Writers meets twice a month on the first and third Wednesdays at the Denny's on Kitsap Way. All creatives are welcome to come there. We promise we don't bite. We also look for venues where people can sell their creative endeavors, whether it be, like I said, the arts or writing or filmmaking or whatever. We basically are there to try to help people get their works out to the public. This show is broadcast on Wave Cable Channel 3 and Comcast Channel 12, though my understanding is now Wave Cable has a digital channel, I think it's channel 70, that they also broadcast as they're switching over more and more to digital. We broadcast on Saturday at 6 p.m. Definitely look for our show. I think you'll find it interesting. And please, everybody out there, remember, you can always write, you can always create, you can always paint, you can always draw. Nobody limits your creativity. And with that, hopefully you're going to have a good, productive month, a very enjoyable year. Good day from Kitsap Letter Artists and Writers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.